live on YouTube. And we're also recording.
Thank you. Also, hi, everybody. And Njeri gave a greeting, and I was occupied and did not. My apologies. Hello.
We're going to wait a little bit while people come in. Sade, is there a way that you can arrange the, I'm not sure if you do it on your end or if I do it on my end, where the slides just take up half of the screen and then we can see some people as well. I'm not sure if I need to do that as host or you need to do it in terms of how you're sharing the screen.
So like kind of like it's just a smaller version of this.
Yeah.
Let me double check. I think. Give me a.
Yeah, thanks. And for folks who are joining us, there is a poll that you'll be able to answer for those of you who are on the Zoom. If you look at the bottom ribbon of your screen and click on poll, it should give you the option to answer the poll questions.
I'm going to try to just share my whole screen instead of just this page and see if that helps. Give me one sec.
Okay. And if it doesn't happen in the next like minute or so, that's fine.
Did it change at all, or it's kind of the same?
We have the gallery view, which is great.
Yeah.
And then now it's got us back to the main.
Okay.
Hi, did y'all get it?
Is that you, Wilhelmina?
Yeah, that was Wilhelmina. I didn't know if that was intentional.
I don't think it was.
Yeah. I muted her.
It's nice to see her, to know the voices.
Yeah.
I can't see the face, but I'm like, that's Wilhelmina.
Thank you.
Okay, so all right, so let's get started. And Sade, if you could just put us on speaker view, and we can just do the welcomes, and I'll start. So hi everyone, welcome back to the Octavia E. Butler Slow Read, and welcome to a new series. We are starting a new series today, which is super exciting. I know that there are probably some of you who are joining us for the very first time as a part of the Slow Read. This is a bit of a jumping in point. So we will start off with some introduction. So my name is Njeri Damali Sojourner Campbell, and I am the creatrix of the Octavia E. Butler slow read. It was something that was really important for me to do last year because I wanted to read all of Octavia E. Butler's books again, and thought, why not do that with a whole bunch of people around the world, and why not work in a leadership team of fabulous people hosting it together. And so the Trinity that is organizing this for you and has been doing it for the past year, because this is also an anniversary show, is myself and Tati from the YouTube channel Musical Tati, and Isis, who is the mastermind goddess behind SistahSciFi. We are also joined, I think for this third time now, by the lovely Sade. Sade is our tech wizard, digital alchemist. And so we are all super happy to be here. So I just want to give Tati and Isis and Sade an opportunity to say hello, given that there'll be some of you joining us for the first time. So I'll pass the floor over to whoever wants it.
I'll jump in. Hi, I'm Isis. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Njeri. I did not realize this is a 1-year anniversary. Like, where did time go? Like, I don't know. Yeah, so I'm excited to be here. This is one of those times where I need a little bit of grace. I've been traveling to Atlanta to support my mom, so I'm always a bit wonky, but this time I'm definitely off-centered. But I'm really excited to be here to discuss Dawn, which is like Lilith's Brood is my favorite work so far by Octavia Butler. So yeah, and I see a lot of familiar faces. So yeah, I'm excited to jump in. And with that, I'll hand it over to Tati.
Before you hand it over, can we have a conversation about those gorgeous earrings? Because I know there's a story behind them and they're amazing.
So yes, I'm in Atlanta, so which means I had to go to Little 5 Points, which means I had to go to Mood Music, which is a Black-owned shop. And I got these earrings and I was with a friend and I was like, do you think these earrings are cute? And they were like, I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna get them anyway. So thank you for that validation.
They're awesome. Tati, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I am Tatiana. I have the YouTube channel Musical Tati. I'm introducing myself. Welcome. I didn't realize that it had been a year, has been a year either. Like, wow, it's flown by. And I am, again, consistently grateful to Njeri for asking me to be part of this undertaking, part of this project. And Njeri knows my obsession with Octavia E. Butler and also my desire to talk about her works with a whole bunch of people. So this is a great opportunity for me, even to serve as the person of co-host. I would have been fine just participating. So yeah, I am happy that you all are here. Also happy to see some new faces as well as some familiar faces. And yeah, looking forward to discussing.
Sade, I know you're usually behind the scenes, but did you want to say hi?
I was on mute. Hi, yeah, I'm Sade. This is my third slow read that I've attended and been the background for. I'm excited to be back. I always like hearing the discussions from behind the stage, I guess. And yeah, if anyone has any like issues or tech stuff they need support on, feel free to message me in the chat. But yeah, excited.
Awesome. Sade, I realize it's my computer that controls what the YouTube looks like. So if I ever turn off the shared screen, it's just so that we can have people's faces, so that those of you who are watching, there are 6 folks watching right now in YouTube land. We want to make sure that you get the full experience as well, and not just the whole slides taking up the space. So Sade, if you see that happening, that's why. Okay, so with that said, can you share your screen again, Sade, and we'll move through the opening piece. Awesome. All right, so today we are here, we are starting the Xenogenesis series, or Lilith's Brood, with the first book being Dawn. And this is absolutely 100% exciting. So let's go to the next slide. Welcome.
Sorry, I was typing. We will start off tonight, or today, this afternoon time, with our dedication to the wonderful Octavia Estelle Butler. You wrote for freedom, yours and ours. We honor this when we read slowly, luxuriously, and collectively, exactly as you had imagined. We are your legacy.
So I will go through the agenda for today. So welcome. We had the dedication. Njeri will go through the group agreements on the next slide. Then it'll be the piece of resistance. We'll do the book chat. So we'll start with the host reflections. So Njeri, myself, and Tati. Then we'll be in breakout rooms. So we'll have smaller groups to discuss as a group. We'll have the discussions. And then we'll have group engagement, which is our very popular sound circle. And then we'll close out with group selfies. Then it'll be see you soon. So announcements from us as the host. And if there are any other Octavia E. Butler announcements, that'll be the time for the community to join in. And then we'll wrap up and close out.
Thank you, Sade. You're awesome.
Thank you.
So we are here co-creating a space together. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that, we're treating ourselves, treating each other, treating Octavia E. Butler's work with respect. And our conversation should reflect what Octavia E. Butler's work, was dedicated to doing, which was creating community, inspiring conversation amongst people with different lived identities, asking provocative questions and co-creating their answers. So in order to do that today, we have a group agreement, and I am going to ask all of us to indicate our agreement. You can use the reaction buttons, the thumbs up, the heart, whatever you like, just to indicate that you agree to support this space by following these agreements. So the first is centering Black, Indigenous voices and the voices of people of color. The voices of Black, Indigenous people and people of color will be centered in this space. Octavia E. Butler, as you know, was a Black woman, centered Black women in her writing. And though her writing was for everyone, she was very particular about ensuring that the perspectives reflected in her work, specifically with the protagonists, were always going to be the perspectives of, the primary perspectives of Black women, Black folks. We want to make sure that we honor and respect that choice, and also that we live up to that choice in our discussions today. So please make sure that when you are communicating with others in the breakout groups, when you're participating in the sound circle, that you are also supporting the centrality of Black folks, in particular, Black, Indigenous, people of color voices. Related to that point is to speak mindfully. So we are all impacted by each other in the space. So think about how you're communicating, think about how much space you're taking up, think about perhaps renaming yourself so that your pronouns are prominent. Please make sure that you are using the appropriate pronouns of individuals in the space. Please speak mindfully when you're referring to, or if you choose to refer to things that others have said, to be mindful, respectful, and gracious in that sharing. Hatred will not be tolerated. The words are clear. if any of myself or Tati or Isis or Sade see or hear anything that is hateful or otherwise oppressive and problematic, we will take immediate steps to remove you, no questions asked. It is important that we maintain a safe space here. And so propagators of racism, transphobia, and other forms of hatred will be removed. You may, if there is something that is said that might not be hateful, but is otherwise problematic, we are co-creating a space where we will raise it immediately and take appropriate steps. So that's an accountability piece that we wanted everybody to know. And then finally, as you know, this event is being recorded. It is being live streamed on YouTube. The link will be available to those who purchased tickets but did not participate in the live show as well. So this will be shared, but please do ask for permission before you share any images, anyone else's images, or any comments or any form like that. I will just say that if you're watching this and you want to like tweet, oh my gosh, it's happening, it's so great, or put it on Instagram and one of the hosts are speaking, I'll speak for myself, I'm totally fine with that, that being shared. But when it comes to any other guests, please ask permission first. And as you know from Lauren Olamina's words to our ears, all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. Overall, we recognize that we are changing each other in this space and adding to our understanding of Octavia E. Butler's work and being a part of her legacy. So in doing that, we want to make sure that we're mindful and responsible in that sharing.
All right, a few things before we start. Make sure that you have your book ready. We will be taking a group selfie when we are finished, when we come back from our breakout rooms. Also, make sure that you flag a short excerpt that you would like to read for the sound circle. There will be spoilers in this discussion. So if you have not finished the book, have not read the book, please be mindful of that. We will be discussing spoilers. Also, if you have not read the book, please leave space for those who have so that we can openly discuss and spend our time doing that. And then also, if you notice something, say something. There is an option in the chat to send something directly to Njeri, myself, or Isis as the hosts. If you see something that is off-putting or offensive to you. So by all means, let us know.
Okay, so a little synopsis of Dawn. Lilith is in the Andes, mourning the death of her family when war destroys the earth. A century later, she's resurrected miraculously by powerful, unearthly beings, the Oankali. Driven by irresistible need to heal others, the Oankali are rescuing our dying planet by merging genetically with mankind. But Lilith and all humanity must now share the world with uncanny, unimaginably alien creatures, their own children. This is their story. And the Exogenesis series includes Dawn, Adulthood Rights, and Imago.
Is this me? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want me to do it? I can. You good?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. Somebody couldn't get in, so I want to send the link. When Lilith wakes from a centuries-long sleep, she finds herself aboard the vast. Wait, we already did this, didn't we? Did we just? What did you just do?
I think it was a brief of the whole series.
Of the whole series.
I thought it was just under the book, so I did not contextualize that correctly.
So yeah, so this is the synopsis for Dawn. I guess it's the first book in the series, so of course we're always going to start here. When Lilith wakes from a centuries-long sleep, she finds herself aboard the vast spaceship of the Oankali. She discovers that the Oankali, a seemingly benevolent alien race, intervened in the fate of of the humanity hundreds of years ago, saving everyone who survived a nuclear war from a dying, ruined Earth, and then putting them in a deep sleep. After learning all they could about Earth and its beings, the Oankali healed the planet, cured cancer, increased human strength, and they now want Lilith to lead her people back to Earth. But salvation comes at a price, as it always does, apparently. Hopeful and thought-provoking, this post-apocalyptic narrative deftly explores gender and race through the eyes of characters struggling to adapt during a pivotal time of crisis and change. That is the first book of the trilogy that we read today. So this is where each of the hosts will take no more than 10 minutes, just talking about our current read of Dawn. So I'll ask either Tati or Isis to go first, please.
I'll start because I'm always all over the place. So we'll start with the discombobulated and end with the, mentally put together, I guess we'll say. This is my second read of Dawn, and this series let me know or helped me to understand that I have issues with anxiety. The first time that I read this was in, I think, 2003. It was the year after my stepdad passed, and I just wanted something that was going to take me away. And I loved Octavia Butler and had another book to read, so take me away. And holy crap, I spent so much time in my head. Lilith and I had very interesting discussions in my head as she dealt with the difficulties of dealing with where her place was, where she was, what happened to Earth. Humanity has managed to do what we do best, which is destroy. And here comes this seemingly benevolent alien race who you have no choice but to trust. And they've taken you away from everything that you know. Everybody that you knew is gone. You're 250 years in the future. And so in reading this, it was an experience twice of not having any control over your surroundings, not having many, if any, options available to you. And then the opportunities that you get to interact with humans that you have this passion for, and you have a care for what happens to the human race, your interactions with them are not nice. They're your adversaries, the people that you have been longing to meet and be with, to band together to get back to Earth. These people become your adversaries. And while you're wanting to succeed in getting them back to Earth and helping them to understand, they're not believing anything that you say to them, because why should they? And yeah, just everything that goes into Lilith's experience, her dealing with learning, number one, how the Oankali works, how this ship works, dealing with Nikanj and the factor of having to overcome your own, how you feel that they are repellent. And you don't want to touch them. You don't want to be around them and get to the point of laying down with them. The interactions that they have with the other humans, particularly the rape of Joseph, which I would love to have a discussion about with other people, because in both times of reading this, I'm like, hello, this is rape. Hello, is anybody gonna save this man? And Lilith is just chilling, standing, watching this, and it's like, I'll come lay down with you too. What the fuck? So yeah, I am really looking forward to having a discussion with you all and letting you all share, because like this is the time that we get to share with each other, or the hosts get to share with you, and when we get together to speak, that's your time to share with us. So I'm really looking forward to hearing everybody's thoughts that gets in my breakout room, to see where the heck your brains are in regards to this. As an educator, I really felt drawn to Lilith because she's put in this position to have to educate, and not really wanting to be in that position, and then finding out that this is something that she actually likes to do, and that's very damning for her as the story goes along. Ending up being someone who's going to just be stuck on this ship. You're gonna go to Earth. We lied by omission. Also, the Oankali's like propensity to say that they don't lie, but you do lie by omission. Like, you're not this. Okay. Great tangent. See, this is why I wanted to go first, because Njeri and Isis are so put together when it comes to sharing shit with people, and I'm not. So yeah, I love this story. Absolutely love this story. But it's a very big discussion. This series is a series that needs to be discussed. It's not just something to read on your own and be in your own brain about, because anxiety. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for that, Tati. And it's a whole different perspective. So I'm in the middle of rereading it. But when I first read it, I think I was left with so much optimism, right? So there was whether we as a reader trust the Oankali, which they seem a bit, suspect. And then can Lilith trust the Oankali? And if she doesn't, what are her options? I love that Lilith is front and center in the role that she plays, and kind of being one of the first humans to wake up on the ship. I love the biology of Dawn. I've never studied biology, but for some reason, science fiction books that focus on biology, really excite me, and what Octavia decided to do with cancer, how that almost revises history and so forth. I love that. And then also, I think from the day that we're conscious, that we're alive and living, we fear our death as individuals, our death as a planet. So this was kind of a whole new way of thinking about what happens when humans destroy the earth, and as opposed to just darkness and oblivion, there's this opportunity for evolution. It's very different. And the Oankali move very differently, but it's oh, what does it look like to have a second chance? And it's very fascinating to me, how the choices and how Lilith decides to navigate through that. I found it very empowering. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to discussions, because obviously people's reactions to Dawn will be very different. Oh, and the one thing, I cannot wait for the Amazon series. Ava DuVernay is producing it. Nnedi Okorafor is working on the screenplay. And I know people are scared and things will be different, but I'm hoping that the universe will make this amazing, amazing, amazing unabashedly. So that's it. I'm done.
So thanks for that. Wow. It was a different story for me, this reread. I missed, the first couple of times I read it, I knew that there was a lot of violence, but I'm not sure about, maybe part of it is because I'm reading it now at my current age. I'm reading it in the time of COVID-19. I'm reading it at a time where, I'm much more, I have more influence over my decisions. I'm more mature. And I guess I'm sort of thinking about the world and family and community in ways that are very different from when I first read the book. So the violence of the Oankali. Oh, also, I also read this in a hybrid type way. So I listened to the Audible, and for anybody, the audiobook, for anybody who listened to this, I just say in the chat if you found the Oankali very, very creepy, because the narrator who did the voice of the Oankali was excellent. And the voice work was soft and hypnotic and extremely manipulative in a way that I did not get when I read just the words on the page. So I guess
You muted yourself.
I muted myself. So it was just a combination of so many things this time around that made the violence of the Oankali, the subversiveness, the manipulation of the Oankali a lot more obvious to me. But the thing that I want to talk about in my now like 2 or 3 more minutes is Lilith Iyako. Lilith as a Black woman. So these aliens come, they observe, they're very good at manipulating species and whatever. They see an opportunity. They see that there's been a nuclear war and humans cannot be, or a war, the humans cannot be trusted. They mashed up their planet. Some of them have been kept in stasis for 250 years. And we're going to choose one human to be the leader. We're going to choose one human. We're going to find the best combination of qualities, of strengths, of worldviews. We're going to find, and then that person is going to be the one that we are going to hold responsible for the refreshing of the entire human race. And she's going to be a Black woman. And that is what I want to focus on, is what was it about the experiences of Black women and the experiences of this particular Black woman that caused the Oankali to choose her, right? And that's so Lilith was the chosen one. And I'm really interested in that. I'm interested in good ways and bad ways, right? And neutral ways. I'm interested in what they saw in her as maybe leadership qualities or ability, the adaptability, which is something in our slow reading sessions that came up a lot. Her foresight, her grief, what was it? And then also, what was it that maybe show the Oankali that she would not be self-destructive, or maybe she wasn't going to be short-sighted, or maybe she would be more malleable, or maybe as a Black woman more aware of the violence that humans do to each other, right? And more thoughtful about how not to do that again. She was also an anthropologist. She was also a grieving mother and wife. She was also going to school, right? She was in the middle of careers. And so what was it about this particular Black woman at this particular time in her life that an alien race saw as valuable in a time when Black women are not told enough how valuable we are, right? So there was something incredibly powerful about Octavia E. Butler's choice to say that, yes, in 1988, in a world where Black women, because we weren't using Black girl magic in 1988, right? It was a whole different time, shoulder pads and everything, right? In 1988, Octavia Butler decided that she would choose a Black woman to be the head of reshaping humanity. And I don't know about you, but I think that that's incredibly profound, and I want to talk about it. So there's a whole bunch of other stuff to say. I totally twinkle everything that was said by Tatiana and also by Isis. I want to get into that, but that is the thing for me that I continue to hold on to. The other thing that I just want to say generally is that there's a lot of sexual violence. There's a lot of racial violence, a lot of physical violence, psychological violence, and manipulation in this here book and in this series. We know that Octavia E. Butler dared us and challenged us not to look away. And in our discussions, we are not going to turn away from the violence. But at the same time, this is a content warning because this book is triggering. I think that's part of its function. And so we just want to encourage you to take care of yourself during the conversation. And that might mean turning off your video. It might mean passing on certain questions. It might mean stepping back. For some, it might mean leaving the conversation and watching the replay in a more safer environment. Please do what you need to do in order to feel safe, because there is a lot of violence in this particular book of many kinds. And while we're going to be discussing it today, we also want to honor that it's going to land on us differently as her work typically does. And with that, those are my thoughts about Dawn in the beginning of this series, which I'm so excited to be a part of today. I don't even know what the next slide says, so let's see. I'm not sure what's next. I'm so excited. Okay.
Me either.
All right, it's me. So as some of you may know, on Onyx Pages on my YouTube channel, I hosted 3 slow reading sessions, and this is sort of like a commercial, I guess, for the next book, but these are sessions where we all gather on my channel and we read the book together in reading sprints. And so we did that over 3 sessions, Wednesday of this week, Friday of this week, and yesterday. And I wanted to just share with you kind of to sew those conversations together. Here are some of the things that were overheard during the slow read sessions. So I have initials for the people who said them. Is power more important to them than working as a community, them being the humans, than working as a community and having a sound plan to overthrow the Oankali after returning to Earth? Empathy is the theme that keeps coming up for me, even if that word hasn't really been used so far, I don't think. But that empathy doesn't seem to be between humans. It involves, quote, others. And just starting chapter 9 of part 2, family reflection. How do you think you would feel if your first encounter with another human was with the character Paul Titus? Would you understand him? And so thank you very much to everybody who participated in the slow reading sessions on Onyx Pages. It's always amazing to read along with you. And I hope that this puts some of that energy back into the room and that we can continue some of those discussions in our small groups. And speaking of which, here we go. This is our transition point to our small group discussions. So I will be passing it over to Sade to sort of talk tech to us through this. But we are going to be dividing into breakout rooms. Isis, Tatiana, and myself will be leading the discussions for about 45 minutes. There are going to be 3 groups. 2 groups will be on Zoom breakout rooms, and they will be invisible to those of you on YouTube. And then there will be 1 group that I'll be leading that will be on YouTube, and we will be interacting with those who are joining us in the chats on YouTube. So I will leave it to Sade to just do what they do and get us to where we need to be for the 45 minutes that we'll be talking together.
For sure. So just give me a few minutes. I'll be putting people into, like Njeri said, breakout rooms. So if you receive a little pop-up message saying, join this breakout room, just click accept or whatever the positive button would be for that. And then you will be taken into a room. If you don't receive a message like that, it means that you would be staying in the main room, which will be live streamed on YouTube. As I'm creating the breakout rooms now with the few minutes time just to put that together, feel free to message me if you do not want to be in the live stream group. You're also open to turning your video off and just using your audio to discuss. But yes, if you don't receive a little breakout room notification, it just means that you'll be in the main live stream room for your discussion.
Thank you. And also, while you're doing that, let's talk about the poll question and the answers. So the poll question was, if you were Lilith Iyapo, what strategy would you use to manage the experience? And there were several options. 1, I would do exactly as she did, gain their trust, gather the humans, and try to make it to Earth ASAP. The other option was sleep until it was all over. The third option was stay on the ship and try to live with the Oankali. The fourth was, this is too stressful. I can't even imagine Lilith's circumstances. And the last was a mistake that I couldn't erase. It was just a dash, and it seemed to still be popular. So, so 41, the majority, so 41% of us said, I would do exactly as she did, gain their trust, gather the humans, and try to make it to Earth as soon as possible. 24%, the next popular answer was, this is too stressful, I can't even imagine Lilith's circumstances. I think I'd probably be in that group. The next popular answer was, stay on the ship to live with the Oankali. The next most popular answer was the dash. And then the least most popular answer was sleep until it's all over. And I know we're still moving people into the room. So Isis and Tati, what would your answer be to that?
I am definitely, I clicked the link that Isis put in the chat, so my video may be a little bit delayed, but I am definitely do exactly as she did, gather the trust of the Oankali and get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, so I agree. I really respected how Lilith navigated the whole situation. So my aspiration would be to act like Lilith did, and not default into running and hiding and hope that somebody figures it out. So yes.
Yeah, I really like what you said about respecting the choices that Lilith made. And like, you know, I think it's important to recognize and to remember that everybody, all the humans are in crisis. And always be careful about judging people's decisions when they're in a crisis, right? Try to judge people's decisions when they're at their best, not when they're at their worst. And so, you know, I don't even know how long, how long, because this book spans a pretty long time. Because we know that between parts 1 and 2, she spends a year in the training room. And then after that, she spends weeks maybe in the football field-sized room. And then after that, everybody goes into the training room. Like, that's a pretty long amount of time that this book actually spans, and right? And they're still in crisis through all of that time. So yeah, really traumatic circumstances. Sade, is everyone where they're supposed to be right now?
Yeah, so if you're seeing a pop-up window to join the breakout room, just click join. And then if you're not seeing that, you'll stay in the main room for this discussion piece.
Okay, great. And for the people who are staying with me, please know that you will be live streamed on YouTube. If you don't want to be, then you can let Sade know by just putting a note in the chat, either privately to Sade or to everyone, and then they'll move you over. Also, if you're staying in the chat, if you're staying here on YouTube, feel free to change your name, rename yourself on Zoom if you would like for the name that you have displayed right now not to be the name that everyone sees. Okay, so I'm trusting that you're all going to be doing that right now. And welcome to the breakout room discussion. Glad that everybody's here. And I just want to start by just asking us to do like a little bit of a go around. So if you could just say, what your thoughts were generally, like what did you come to the live show today wanting to express? So what do we just need to get off our chest before we even get into actual questions? And so anybody, please go ahead and share your answer, and we'll give everybody who wants to speak an opportunity to do so. So anyone, please jump in.
I really enjoyed it. I have to say it was really interesting. I actually would have stayed with the Oankali because the way the humans were acting when she was trying to teach them stuff, and it's always Black women that gotta tell y'all how to do stuff and you don't listen, I would have said, you know what? Go ahead to Earth. Since you don't want to learn how to do things in the new world, go ahead to Earth, die. Go ahead. You're not even prepared. Go kill yourself. Go ahead. I'm going to stay up here and do me and work with other humans that can get it together. That's what I would have done. But, but I enjoyed it. I really did.
I'm happy that you did. Yeah, I definitely feel like there are a lot of moments where I just really felt for Lilith, right? And a lot of moments where I was just like, and this is what the Oankali see in us. That's why y'all been asleep for 250 years, because like, what? We're still doing this? This is how we ended up in the situation that we are right now, right? So
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I definitely get that. And I get it now more than I did before. Others, first thoughts, what do you want to get off your chest?
I wanted to express that, wow, the men sounded horrible. Just the way they acted. I mean, especially like the first guy, Paul Titus or Titus, yeah.
Titus, I think.
Titus, yeah. I mean, he just went after her. That just kind of shocked me because I didn't think it was going to be like that. I read it a while back and then I'm reading it again and I'm almost finished. But, just reading it the second time, there were so many things that I missed the first time, like when you read it over and over again and you can see what's going on. But my goodness, I was just really kind of shocked at how the men acted. And also what was interesting to me was when the Oankali were explaining to, goodness, I forgot her name, the main character.
Lilith.
Lilith, thank you. They were asking, what does faggot mean? And then she was saying, and she tried, did she explain to him? I don't think she really did, but then they were saying how some of the others were saying they didn't like, some of the humans said they didn't like Paul because of the shape of his eyes, or Joseph, I'm sorry, because he was older. I mean, all those things, boy, she was really taking a lot in. The author was really taking a lot in when she put this down. And you could see some of the things that were going through her mind as she was writing this. So yeah, that was, and then you just think about today, and so much of this is just the same. Oh, yeah. So it was amazing, especially the second time around.
Yeah. The just transparency of the hatefulness and discrimination. And, it was very much like we definitely saw maybe not the worst of us, but, we saw the bad of us being like humanity, right? And any story that has an alien point of view allows us to ask questions about our society. And certainly, she was very clear to let us know right away that discrimination, racism, hatred, homophobia, and we don't see any, we don't see any clear transphobia on the page, but it's certainly there in terms of like the compulsory gender binaries that we are presented with in this story. Like it's certainly there. The Oankali would not have been able to appropriately deal with gender non-binary individuals, humans, and trans individuals, because they also saw humanity in a very woman, man, male, female kind of way. But yeah, like it definitely got us confronting the worst of us, for sure. Others? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is my first slow read experience.
Welcome.
Thank you. I came through, I guess, Eventbrite. And so I've read the book, I think, multiple times, years and years ago. I haven't reread it. But I think what I wanted to express was that I think I'm going to listen to it and do the audio version from what you shared, because what I recall is the horror of it. And I think I want to experience that horror in a more visceral way by listening to the audio book. So I appreciate this opportunity to hear what everyone has to share who read it more recently. And that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, you can definitely, you can get that. I don't know if you, just in case for people who are watching it, might not be aware, but you can get the audio for free over what is it called? Over Libby or Hoopla, or there's like libraries will give you like the free audiobook. You can sign them out. So that's an option as well. You might have to wait a long time for it because it's pretty popular. But yeah, the hypnotic, like especially Nikanj, especially the non-consensual sexual encounter, violent encounter between Joseph and Nikanj and Lilith, the like manipulative soft voice that's used by the voice actor in that moment just brought chills to my spine. And I think even in reading it, my own, because I hear my own voice when I read, and I know that my own voice would have tempered the violence of it, would have made it more palatable. But thanks, Sade, they said it's overdrive. But hearing like the, just come, no, this is what you, it was a lot. It was very, very violent. So yeah, I would suggest you do that. Others? Hi.
It strikes me in many ways, having read the book, I don't even know how long ago, but when it was first published, and reading it now again at this time when we are, as you all know, involved in this situation that is fraught with trauma in all kinds of ways. I'm ready for them to land now. I'm ready for this experiment that we've been engaged in for the last however many thousand years to take another turn, because I don't feel like the experiment is getting us any further along towards being more of that thing that we call human, because clearly the qualities that make us human, that we value as human, seem also to be fatally flawed, as the Oankali might say, with something that makes us, as was introduced when you started the session, so destructive. I'm weary of the destruction. I'm weary of the pain. I'm weary of the disease. And I'm ready for an intervention that will move us beyond this stuck place where we are.
Others? Thank you. And for those who are watching in YouTube land, please feel free to type your comments into the chat. I'm watching the chat and I will read them as well.
Hi, it's Will B. What's the sister's name? Latrice. Yeah, I appreciate your comments about what would you have done, and say her name again. Lilith. I'm gonna mess it up again. But I was one of the ones that picked the dash, because in looking at the situation, I thought about where they was a lifeboat. And one of the things about it is for us to survive, we must all row together, you know. And if you choose in the middle of the ocean to stand up and dance, in my mind, my options are, listen, this is what we're trying to do, yada, 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 yada. I try to be as empathetic as possible and sympathetic and understand. But the bottom line is this: you got to sit down and row. And if you don't row, I have to put you out. And I think that she recognized some characteristics of some people that were counter to the rowing process, but her humanity and her love of for the people and her optimism would not allow her to do that. So that's why I picked the dash. There were a couple of things that came up, and one of them, when they talked about that we had these two incongruent or incompatible characteristics. One was our intelligence, and the other was our hierarchy. All right. And our intelligence started to serve this need for hierarchy rather than the other way around, which I think kind of puts us in this dire strait that we are now, because if I am in the service of the hierarchy, which ranks and says that, oh, you are more important than that and yada, 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 then I am not exercising my intelligence to come up with an alternative view, and I'm not taking my responsibility to contribute, or because I have this belief in hierarchy, I don't feel that I have enough power to impact what is going on. That was one of the things I said, because there's a line in here: intelligence enables you to deny the facts you dislike, but your denial doesn't matter. And then there's another place, I don't know if I can find it, where they talked about the one that was training her. You're a horror and beauty and rare combination. In a very real way, you captured us and we can't escape. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, I agree that we are horror and beauty and rare combination, but why would she say you've captured us and we can't escape? So it was but like the sister said, this human experience, this human experiment, it's well, at this stage, it's very trying because of all of the distortions and hatred and just that's around. Yet, I guess I'm just a diehard optimist. Let's stick around and see what's going to happen. Thank you.
I know I'm on mute. Thank you very much too. I want to read some of the things that those who are watching over YouTube have shared. So Seriella says, absolutely appreciated the audio narration, especially Jediah and Nikanj. And Bernie says, if I woke up to a new world with weird looking people in charge, I think I might go nuts too. First of all, I don't know if I would believe anything anyone said. And I think the sentiment that you're expressing is that, it would be very difficult for you to stay present in all of it, right? In all of it, right? It would be very difficult to stay present. And then Susan, you said, my first time to experience this format, slow read and discussion. I read Octavia's Dawn and subsequent books in the series when they first came out. Octavia was an extraordinary writer, unique in her approach to writing and storytelling. I held her as a creative genius and shared energy and intellect as Ursula Le Guin. And I think one of the things that we're doing, thank you for that. One of the beautiful things about the Octavia E. Butler slow read is that we are engaging her work deeply and slowly and luxuriously in its own right. And we're also not comparing her against any other writers because her brilliance stands alone powerfully. And I think, one of the things that we had an opportunity to discuss in the slow reading group was like, why was Lilith the one chosen? And why did Lilith choose who she chose, especially at the beginning of the training section where she had to first choose her core group, and she had 80 portfolios, and she's going through these portfolios and kind of thinking about who do I need by my side, who's most likely to kind of get me to where I need to go. What are your thoughts about how the task that was put before her, right? And how she went about doing it, how she went about accomplishing that task. Any thoughts there?
I think one of the things that's really lost is that knowing her profession as an archaeologist really gives you the mindset of how she thinks, right? So she doesn't think like a normal person. She doesn't evaluate like a normal person, because archaeologists, they're designed or they're taught how to look at the world in a different way, how to look at what you're finding in a different way. What's the history behind it? What's the purpose behind it, right? So I think after she got past her first few rounds of just despair of waking up to these random waking up and not even knowing who she's talking to, who's feeding her, who's waking her up, who's putting her to sleep, and then finally meeting them, being freaked out, but then taking a step back and saying, all right, this is my situation, what do I do? And I think with her inner monologues, you can tell she figured out what she needed to do from that aspect. And that's what I really liked about Lilith's character, was she was always constantly weighing, even if you didn't see the words written, you could read between the lines and she's weighing the options here to say, if I do this, this could happen. If I do that, this could happen. And I have to think, what's the best option here, even though I know potentially whoever I choose is just going to be a hot mess.
Yeah.
They may not be able to interpret what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and how I'm doing it, because I am slightly a little different because I've been woken up longer. So those are all my thoughts. Also, I will always say this, but as a Black woman, we are the most adaptable people. It's something that is innate to us because of constant trauma. It is something we learn. And I don't know if it's just a Black American thing or not, but I know as a Black American woman or a Western woman, because you're from Canada, so, you know, you're probably very similar. We adapt very well because we weigh our options. So if I hear this conversation, or I hear this is how this group of people are saying or interpreting what I'm saying, I automatically am thinking, all right, here's 3 other options. It's innate. It's very innate to us. So I could really relate with this character, because I'm like, I would be her. Like, I would really be able to weigh that. And I believe they really, with studying her, the aliens or the Oankali, they studied her to see her reactions to every time she woke up, what was different, why she was different, and how she could gauge all of those situations and why they chose her, not just biology, but all those things took into account as well, because they could have picked Paul because Paul had cancer too, right? So with that whole cancer thing, that was mind-boggling, by the way. I don't know if we'll get to that, but they could have picked him because from a biological point of view, they were similar, and we don't find that out to the end. But because of the way that she thought and she acted, that is what, in my mind, why they chose her to be the one, to be the leader. Okay, I think I rambled enough.
I think that was perfection, and there is no rambling here. We are all adding important value to this conversation. I want to pull in some. Go ahead, Doctor.
The way you frame that question or the setup for our responses pointed out to me something that I hadn't been aware of until I prepared to respond, and it was that Lilith is a scientist. She's training to be a scientist as well as an educator. And I think of science as a methodology that is systematic and rigorous, not the way we tend to call science. And in doing science, we set up situations and we look to see what happens, and we make adjustments. And as Latrice just mentioned. We adapt, we change the framework, we insert a new variable, we whatever. So her educational background and her probably natural proclivities prepared her to be someone who takes a methodical, systematic, and essentially necessarily rigorous approach to the situation that she's in. And I hadn't realized how much of that, you could call it a phenomenological perspective, if you will, but it happens to be something that I learned about, that I found perfectly resonant for my understanding of what it means to be a scientist. You take that approach to whatever the situation is, and I really respect that OEB set Lilith up in that way, to be that person as well as to be the person who's an educator.
Thank you. Sariella says, I'm still pondering Njeri's question, why Lilith, a Black woman, for that specific intermediary position, a position so fraught with distrust questions that she herself called being a Judas. And I think we've taken that up in some of the responses so far, but thank you for, that question. And I think it is, who asked that, if we could talk about the connection between the parallels of Clay's Ark, the Clay's Ark children. So Lisa Ullman asked that question. So if anybody wants to do a cross-series discussion, I think what we're going to do at the end of the Xenogenesis series is also look at some of the similarities and differences and themes that were picked up in both series. So both series. So that's an option as well. And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to read a couple of other comments. So Lisa said, woken up longer and altered by the aliens. Yes, so we talked about Lilith being literally woke. And Yolanda, this is your first time to read a science fiction book series. That's amazing. Welcome. It's great to start with Octavia E. Butler. You recently found out about Octavia Butler's writings, and this is your first time to get into one of her books. So you're just 100 pages in, and which is great. You are both intrigued and puzzled about where the book is going. So I hope you'll get the encouragement to continue the book and broaden your perspective into SF. And yes, also the main character is a Black woman, which is excellent and awesome. So Lisa, yeah, they didn't like the men due to the dominance traits. I want to just tease that apart a little bit, because that is something, when I last read Dawn, I hadn't started on my journey of understanding cis sexism and the ways in which we center gender binaries and cisgender people in the way we talk about sex and gender. I've done a lot more thinking. I'm still on my journey. And, I wonder how would the story have changed if the issue was more about toxic masculinity rather than men or maleness or masculinity generally? Because it seemed to me that the traits that the Oankali were trying to avoid are the traits of toxic masculinity. And so just curious, my thought isn't sort of finished there, but I was wondering about that. If this book had been written in 2021, would we have seen a different way to describe the problematic behavior that they were trying to avoid? Lisa and others.
Hey, so I made that comment, and I guess one of the things that struck me is how up to date Octavia Butler was with what was in science and with, DNA stuff, etc. And so at the very end, and then when I had the audiobook, it read me a little bit of the next book. And we learn more about their real hesitation with this dominance trait and how they're trying to fix it going forward. And so if I bring in what you were saying, yeah, it comes down to that nature versus nurture kind of question about DNA and environment and what causes certain people to act the way they act. And is it sort of preordained because of their DNA and the hormones they're exposed to, or is it environmental? And she's kind of taken the science through the aliens, who I can't pronounce their name, to say that it's kind of in their DNA, but the DNA could be fixed. That's the way I read her stuff. Whether or not we would want it written that way today, I don't know. I still think hormones do a lot, whether it's from your DNA or some other source. So that's kind of biological in some ways.
I was wondering if, I think I recognize your voice, Lisa, and I was wondering in my head, I was like, there's a scientist who comes to the slow read, and I wonder if they're here today, and I think it's you. So yes, so thank you for that. Thank you for that. I think I think there's a lot of sort of angles to reading her work, and I know that in one of her interviews, Octavia Butler was asked if she would describe her work as science fiction. And she said, some of my work does not include science and some of it does. And the work that includes science is the works of science fiction. And I think, here we're getting into genetics, I think is what it's called, and alien genetics, and
epigenetics, because I thought it was interesting that she's really talking about epigenetics, which is the expression of a gene without changing the gene.
And there's so much. I got an email from someone after one of our first shows saying that there's a group of scientists who are reading Octavia E. Butler's work as scientific texts. And they were just like, we just wanted to shout you out. We just wanted to let you know that scientists are picking up this work and looking at it strictly through the scientific prophecy, that lens. So that's certainly super cool. On a similar point, Tom writes, are the Oankali acting as anthropologists as well, trying to understand and reform human society back on Earth? Another reason why they chose her to help them. And Tom loves your takes on things, Latrice. So good, really interesting question there as well. And I think there's an interaction between Tate and, am I right? Tate and Lilith have a brief interchange where Tate says something like, what did you do before? And then Lilith explains that she was studying anthropology, and then Tate says, I think that's why that might have been one of the reasons they chose you, really early on when it was just the two of them. Does anybody else remember that exchange? I think there was a really brief exchange there. Okay, so let's, does anybody else have questions? Sade, I'm not sure, how much time do we have before we go back to the main space?
We have about 10 minutes left.
Okay, I would like to ask, usually when we go back to the main space, one person from the group kind of shares what we've talked about, or maybe one or 2 points. Is anybody willing to do that on behalf of our group? Maybe just share a couple of points that we talked about, or even just one question that we talked about. Would anyone like to be the spokesperson? Can someone volunteer? Sylvia, are you considering saying yes? Or you're okay. You're convicted in the no place. That's cool. Okay, so if someone can think about whether or not I'll ask again for volunteers, because I'll be turning into co-host mode. So if somebody can take up maybe one question, that would be great. Are there any other, I guess one question that I have is the Oankali. Are they Are they manipulative? Are they seeking partnership and benevolent? Are they a little bit of both? Are they sinister? Are they curious? You know, like humans can be curious with ants or insects and then end up, you know, killing them by accident with the reckless curiosity. Like, how are you feeling about the Oankali and their project, their overall project, the way that they've decided to intervene, especially at the end?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, they're coming from another world and they're choosing to use the word rescue humans after the US and Russia ruined the planet, right? After a war. So here they come, they rescue a few humans, study them, and now they want to share or partner or procreate and mingle a new creation. So it's about them carrying on their species as well as human species, and maybe they need us to do that. We don't really have that understanding, but I think it's twofold, right? And I think the reason why I'm saying that is because of Nikaj's responses in the way that he interacts with her, with Lilith, and then also how he interacted with Joseph. He said something really key about how when Joseph was killed, he was like, that he was mine too. He was also mine. So I'm going to grieve as well. It may not be the way you grieve, but it is grieving. So I feel like there's something around the Oankali that we're unaware of as of now. And I have not read the other books, but as of now, we're unaware of their overall intention. It could be yes, it could be bad and good. But I think that that's worth exploring to see how this is going to net out, what's going to really happen. I mean, we know a sort of their goal is to combine the species and settle on Earth, I'm assuming, or maybe somewhere else, because their home planet's so far away, they don't even know if it still exists. So in some ways they're selfish, but at the same time, they're posing that they're helping humanity. But did humanity have a choice if the planet literally was blown to bits because of a war?
I mean, the extinction narrative certainly offers a different starting point for the contact with the Oankali than other first contact stories that are about invasion, right?
Yeah.
So, and that the language of like restoring extinct species, if you think about what human beings do to species that we have caused to becoming extinct, if you think about how we respond, you know, how different are our strategies when we occupy the place of the benevolent, you know, rescuer. I also want to throw out the invitation to anybody in the YouTube chat. If you wanted to type a comment that kind of sums up what we've discussed, I'd be happy to also read it on your behalf when we go back to the larger space. But some comments. So Sariella, thank you for the discussion, cleared up a lot. Good to hear that. Bernie, are the Oankali trustworthy? Folks, are the Oankali trustworthy? What do you think? And Pretty Brown Eye Reader, hello, the Oankali are manipulative, period. I felt that when they kept saying it was a trade. Yeah. Experience this as a trade. Believe us that it's a trade. Yes, we've impregnated you against your will, but it's a trade. It's a good trade. It's a trade. It's good for you. You're ready, right? Ms. Will B, and I think Dr. VP, you may have, okay. So Ms. Will B and then Dr. VP, and then I think we'll be close to.
Okay, thanks. Well, mine is more of a question because I had the impression that for the Oankali, I hope I'm saying it, well, I'm saying it enough, y'all know who I'm talking about.
Right.
their planet, their whole planet has been either destroyed or it's gone through time. And they are on, it seems as to me that they're on this mission. They have to colonize in order to survive. And is it a search to find people that they can truly colonize, both from the terms of a physical? No, that's not right, Will. That's not
a good question. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't on mute. I'm sorry.
You know, it's like I'm trying to, you know, it's like their planet has died. Are they in the process of dying unless they get to people or entities or life forms that they can merge with in order to continue their life? Because I was thinking back to when it says there was something, well, we need you. So, and they've done it over countless time. So, I don't know. It seems like they're like searching for life. They're on this search for life. And oh, okay, yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna have to read this one again and again. I can see that now. Yeah.
And you know what? Yeah, and you know what? As we go into adulthood rights and imago, the answer may come as the story continues to unfold, right? Because
okay.
You know, by the end of it, Lilith doesn't go down with them this time, right? She's, for her own good, she's prevented from going back down to Earth. She's kept on the ship. So there's more to the story that will perhaps answer these questions. Dr. VP.
Do we trust them? Why not? What is trust? And what does trust mean? Are we willing to entertain the possibility that they are exactly as enigmatic and as perhaps manipulative and perhaps controlling and perhaps deceitful as we think they are? Sure, we can trust them to be that. And still, what does trust allow? Does it allow us to suspend judgment? Or does it allow us to replace someone else's perspective or some other entity's perspective with the one that we would normally, quote unquote, normally, because normal's not no more, have? And the way we use these words, trade, we're always trading. This is not a bad thing. It's the nature of human existence as we know it. There's always the back and forth. There's always the give and take. There is no absence of duality in the way we are formed. We are dual hemisphere beings. We are bipedal. There's always this thing going on. So to call what they do trade in a way that makes it seem as if they're doing something devious is a judgment that is inconsistent with what appears to be the essence of what is true about exchange.
Mm-hmm. Is that something you'd like to share with the big group when we go back? Would you be willing to?
Sure.
Okay, good, great.
Remember what I said. Sure.
Great, thank you. Because you're so amazing. And every time you say something, I'm just like, ah. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we just want to hear your voice all the time. So
yeah. Since day one. Okay, so thank you. Last thoughts. I think we are headed, people are going to be joining us soon. Nice to see your face, Ms. Wilby. Any other thoughts? Let's see. I think that there were some comments. Sariella says, I thought the Oankali were colonizers and very manipulative. Bernie says, I wonder if the Oankali had something to do with the Earth's destruction. And you know what's funny? Where I thought you were going, Dr. KVP, was, are the Oankali any more deceitful and untrustworthy as we are as humans, right? Like where, so anyway, we are back. What y'all laughing at? Tati and who? And Monica. What's the joke? I want to know.
Oh, we were so cut off. We were getting into it. We were so cut off. Zoom was so rude, but it's okay.
and here we are. So welcome back, everyone. I hope that you had wonderful, fruitful discussions. Why don't we just start with the ones who were most rudely cut off by, time? What's time? So Tati, would you like to share a thought or two or a giggle or four from your discussion?
Monica won number one, we had great discussion. Thank you to everyone who participated in my group in the discussion. I didn't get to say that because Zoom is rude. But we had a really good and lively discussion. Monica won the award for breaking my brain. Maria wins the award for reminding me where the anxiety kicked in the terms of reading this novel. And both of the Sharons had very great insights into the background, like comparing this to some of the other stories that we read, particularly Survivor and dealing with the aliens. And Lois gave great input as well. Like, we just had a really, really good time, but I'm going to leave you with the initial breakage that Monica gave me, because there was a, discussion about this trio of screwing and how that, happened, initiating with Joseph's rape, which I'm never not going to call Joseph's rape. And, wondering with all of the ecstasy and everything that was felt, like there were no, where did the fluids go? The things happened, and how the body works, there are fluids. And where did those fluids go? Because Joseph woke up and Lilith woke up clean. So where the fuck are the fluids? And Monica nicely said, well, Nikanj is a sponge. You're welcome. And Njeri turned the camera off. Job done. Way to go, Monica. Isis, while Njeri collects herself, would you like to share?
How do you follow up with that? Okay. Okay. And Njeri, you can jump in. Since it looks like you're not turning up. I don't know. So yeah, I really appreciate the discussion with the group. I think for me, the biggest takeaway was, and if other members of the group want to come in and thoughts, that one, I think the first time I read the book, I was like, the Nkali are kind of shady, but I trust them more than I trust humans. And so there was a really good discussion on, like, the Nkali were as trustworthy as humans on a case-by-case basis. So I was like, oh, that's a very valid point. Also, consent is a big theme. But then we look like, what does consent look like in a society where there's a collective consciousness and decisions are made by consensus? Like, how do you even begin to think of the framework of consent? Does consent kind of rely on individual decision-making? And if you have a collective consciousness and consensus decision-making, what does that look like? Is it like a whole new way of being? And seeing Nkanj becoming more aware of consent as he interacts. So those were two of the major insights that I wanted to share with the group. I'm really grateful for my group for participating in the discussion, being willing to answer the questions that came up for me, and then bringing up their own questions that came up for them as they read the book. So with that, I'll hand it over to Njeri.
And with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. KVP.
Okay. The point that I'll begin from, a point of departure that I'll begin from, which is not really a representation of what happened in our group, because I was unable to encapsulate that in a way that is coherent by being in the flow of it. But the point that Njeri wanted me to bring forward into the larger discussion is the idea, the question was asked, do we trust the Oankali? Well, I'm questioning the meaning of trust because, as SistahSciFi said, do we trust them as much as we trust so-called humans? Well, pretty much, yeah. I mean, I don't think we have any absolute infinite trust in humans per se anyway. And if we do, we have trust in that they will be who we know them to be. So we know the Oankali to be in all these ways that they are. So let's trust that that is the way they are. Now, what we could trust perhaps is that we don't understand the meaning of all of that. But I don't know what trust means in this context. And that leads me to the other aspect that I think Njeri wanted me to focus on. And that is the meaning of the words that we use and the judgments that are implied by the way in which we use them. To refer to trade as something that is nefarious, for lack of a better word right now, rather than trade as the natural phenomenon that occurs when two or more entities engage. There is a trade that is involved. And in this form that we inhabit now, that trade is sometimes molecules of whatever comes out of us into the atmosphere that is then input into the person or persons with whom we are interacting. Sometimes that trade is ideas. Sometimes that trade is stuff. Sometimes it's a relationship that says, okay, I don't want to be alone as I age. And you don't like being lonely. So we're going to trade this off. I'm going to be with you and take care of you ultimately, because that's what it boils down to. I don't want, you don't want to be not taken care of, but you're not going to call it being taken care of. You're going to call it, I don't want to be alone. And here's someone else who also doesn't want to be alone for different reasons. So one person's trading off her or his willingness to help care for another person in exchange for not being alone. And they both don't want to be alone. So the trade's fair, if you want to call it a trade. They're both getting what they want, if that's what the meaning of a fair trade is. And that's really where I have to land on as much of a summary as I can come to at this moment, is the way we define terms and the meaning of those terms and the words that we use in the ways that we use them have more to do with the experience than the experience requires. And we are meaning-making beings. That's what humans do, as far as we know. We can make all kinds of meaning out of things. So we can choose, essentially, what meaning we're going to give a phenomenon. And the way we make that choice will determine whether we accept it as what it is, or reject it as something that is either foreign to us, that is perhaps harmful, or that we're frightened of, or whatever it is. Accept it or reject it. It's a choice.
And that was a word. Thank you. Sade, can you please show us where we're at on the slide? I want to thank everybody in the chats as well from my group for participating. There were a lot of great discussions. So if you watch the replay, you can also choose to follow along with the live chat. So a lot of conversations about this notion of the trade, about whether the Oankali were colonizers, yes, manipulative, yes, trustworthy. Well, we just heard the word on trust. So thank you to those of you who are participating over on YouTube. All right, as we mentioned, we are going to take a selfie. So please do grab your book or your tablet or your phone or your whatever. We're going to take a photograph. This photograph will be shared over our platforms and so on. So if you do not want to be in the photograph, you can just turn off your video. Sade, are you able to take the screenshot of everyone holding up their books?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, awesome.
All right, I'll do 3 different shots. I'll count down. So 3, 2, 1. Second one, 3, 2, 1. And last one, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Looks great.
Thank you very much. All right. So I think we are now at the sound circle. Tati, are you able to mute? You're on mute, Tati.
That's me, is what I was saying. And then I was saying, bye, Connie. Thank you for joining. All right. Thank you for asking me to unmute because I forgot I was muted. We're going to do our sound circle. So this is what we request of you. Please choose a 3 to 5 sentence excerpt from the book that you enjoyed. Listen as others read, wait for a moment of silence, and then just read your excerpt. There doesn't need to be an explanation of where it is in the book, no commentary, just give us your piece, and then we'll move on to the next as the next person goes in and just listen. It's a great experience, and we have some favorite readers, so you know.
And but no, it was not that kind of experiment. She was intended to live and reproduce, not to die. Experimental animal, parent to domestic animals, or nearly extinct animal, part of a captive breeding program? Human biologists had done that before the war, used a few captive members of an endangered animal species to breed more for the wild population. Was that what she was headed for? Forced artificial insemination, surrogate motherhood, fertility drugs and forced donation of eggs, implantation of unrelated fertilized eggs, removal of children from mothers at birth. Humans had done these things to captive breeders for a higher good, of course.
Yes, he said, intelligence does enable you to deny facts you dislike.
Alive, still alive. Alive again? Awakening was hard as always, the ultimate disappointment.
So few humans could do that. Just let someone have a few minutes to think.
You are hierarchical. That's the older and more entrenched characteristic. We saw it in your closest animal relatives and in your most distant ones. It's a terrestrial characteristic. When intelligence did not even acknowledge it as a problem, but took pride in it or did not notice it, when human intelligence served it instead of guiding it. When human intelligence did not acknowledge it was a problem, but took pride in it or did not notice it at all, that was like ignoring cancer. I think your people did not realize what a dangerous thing they were doing.
She needed to share the burden of what she knew, what she must do. She needed thoughtful people who would hear what she had to say and not do anything violent or stupid. She needed people who could give her ideas, push her mind in directions she might otherwise miss. She needed people who could tell her when they thought she was being a fool, people whose arguments she could respect.
We're not hierarchical, you see. We never were, but we are powerfully acquisitive. We acquire new life, seek it, investigate it, manipulate it, sort it, use it. We carry the drive to do this in a minuscule cell within a cell, a tiny organelle within every cell of our bodies.
Joseph sighed. I don't understand why the sight of you should scare me so, Joseph said. He did not sound frightened. You don't look that threatening, just very different. Different is threatening to most species, Nikan answered. Different is dangerous. It might kill you. That was true to your animal ancestors and your nearest animal relatives, and it's true for you.
Nikanj pressed the back of her neck with a sensory hand, warning pressure. It would give her something then, They stopped walking by mutual consent and faced one another. It gave her a new color, a totally alien, unique, nameless thing, half seen, half felt, or tasted. A blaze of something frightening, yet overwhelmingly compelling. Extinguished. A half-known mystery, beautiful and complex. A deep, impossibly sensuous promise. Broken, gone, dead.
Yet she did think of Aha as a friend, Ahas de Chan Nikanj. But what was she to them? A tool, a pleasurable perversion, an accepted member of the household. Accepted as what? Round and round, it would have been easier not to care. Down on earth, it would not matter. The Onkale used her relentlessly for their own purposes, and she worried about what they thought of her.
You wanted your time back, the time we've taken from you. You didn't want to die. She stared at him, shocked that he had read her so clearly, and he must have known of humans who did want to die even after hearing promises of long life, health, and lasting youth. Why? Maybe they'd heard the part she hadn't been told about yet, the reason for all this, the price.
She must go back to the settlement and get help from the Oankali. She must get non-humans to help her against her own people in a place that might or might not be on Earth.
She was comforted by his words and ashamed of needing comfort. How had she become so dependent on him? She shook her head. The answer was obvious. He wanted her dependent. That was the reason for her continued isolation from her own kind. She was to be dependent on the Oankali, dependent on trusting. To hell with that.
She rested her right arm across his forehead. His family, she said bitterly. You kept saying that. His family is dead. Like mine, like Fukumoto's, like just about everyone's. That's half our problem. We haven't got any real family bonds.
You don't need us, Joseph said. You created your own human beings, poor bastards. Make them your partners. We do need you. Nikanj spoke so softly that Joseph leaned forward to hear. A partner must be biologically interesting, attractive to us, and you are fascinating. You are horror and beauty in rare combination in a very real way. You've captured us, and we can't escape. But you're more than only the composition and the workings of your bodies. You are your personalities, your cultures. We're interested in those too. That's why we saved as many of you as we could.
Lilith, he was mine too. You brought him to me. You brought him to me. I would not have touched him if you had rejected him. I wish I had. He'd be alive.
One of the meanings of Oankali is gene trader. Another is that organelle, the essence of ourselves, the origin of ourselves. Because of that organelle, the Ululoi can perceive DNA and manipulate it precisely.
What the hell is she saving herself for? Jean was demanding. It's her duty to get together with someone. There aren't that many of us left. It's my duty to find out where I am and how to get free, Allison shouted. Maybe you want to give whoever's holding us prisoner a human baby to fool around with, but I don't.
After a time, Joseph took Lilith's hand. Do you see? He asked gently. Do you understand why they chose you? Someone who desperately doesn't want the responsibility, who doesn't want to lead, who is a woman? The condescension in his voice first startled, then angered her. Do I see Joe? Oh, yes, I've had plenty of time to see.
But she stepped closer to it, shaking her head. But what about me? I did all you asked. I didn't hurt anyone. Why am I still here?
Denise, we
Denise,
can't
we
hear
can't
you.
hear you, sweetie.
We're an adaptable species, she said, refusing to be stopped. But it's wrong to inflict suffering just because your victim can endure it.
Joseph's breathing now became a gentle snore, and he seemed to sleep comfortably against Nekhaj, as she had awakened to find him sleeping comfortably against her many times. She did not pretend outwardly or to herself that she would resist Nekhaj's invitation, or that she wanted to resist it. Nekhaj could give her an intimacy with Joseph that was beyond ordinary human experience, and what it gave, it also experienced. This was what had captured Paul Titus, she thought. This, not sorrow over his losses or fear of a primitive earth.
Your body said one thing, your words said another. It moved a sensory arm to the back of his neck, looping one coil loosely around his neck. This is the position. It said, I'll stop now if you like.
What difference does any self-deception make? We need to know them for what they are, even if there are no human parallels. And believe me, there are none for the Uloi. She got up, knowing that she had not given him the promise he wanted, knowing that he would remember her silence. She unsealed the doorway and left the room.
Illusion doesn't comfort them for long. It just confuses them, helps them make dangerous mistakes. I have begun to wonder myself where we really were.
You chose him for me? I offered you to one another. The two of you did your own choosing. It opened a wall and left her.
Nobody here is property. Nobody here has the right to the use of anyone else's body. There'll be no back to the Stone Age caveman bullshit. She let her voice drop to normal. We stay human. We treat each other like people, and we get through this like people. Anyone who wants to be something less will have his chance in the forest. There'll be plenty of room for him to run away and play at being an ape.
This is what I know, Lilith said. Our rescuers, our captors are extraterrestrials. We are aboard their ship. I've seen and felt enough, including weightlessness, to be convinced that it is a ship. We're in space, and we're in the hands of people who manipulate DNA as naturally as we manipulate pencils and paintbrushes. That's what I know. That's what I've told you all. And if any of you decide to behave as though it isn't true, well, I'll be lucky if we're just put to sleep and split up.
Look at things from Kurt's point of view, Gabriel said. He's not in control even of what his own body does and feels. He's taken like a woman and no, don't explain. He held up a hand to stop her from interrupting. He knows the Uloi aren't male. He knows all the sex that goes on is in his head. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. Someone else is pushing all his buttons. He can't let them get away with that.
But it gave the humans a feeling of power to know that they could make their Ulu feel sick and abandoned. Ulu did not endure well when bereft of all those who carried their particular scent, their particular chemical marker. They lived. Metabolisms slowed, they retreated deep within themselves until called back by their families or less satisfactorily by another Ulu, behaving as a kind of physician. So why didn't they go to their mates when their humans left? Why did they stay and get sick?
They thought you would choose one of the big dark ones because they're like you. I said you would choose this one because he's like you.
Those are frightened people looking for someone to save them, Gabriel said. They don't want reason or logic or your hopes or expectations. They want Moses or somebody to come and lead them to lives they can understand.
Peter was right, he said angrily. She frowned. Peter? Right to try to kill? Right to die? He died human, and he almost managed to take one of them with him. She looked at him. So what? What's changed? On Earth, we can change things, not here. Will we want to by then? What will we be, I wonder? Not human, not anymore.
Now, men and women had begun to hold hands, to sit closer to one another. They slipped arms around one another and sat together, probably feeling better than they had since they had been awakened. It was unlikely that any of them could shake off the feeling the way Lilith had. No Uloi had modified them.
Talk to your friends, Gabriel said. Maybe that's not the show they had in mind. Maybe they'll help you rewrite the script. She stared at him, frowning. Do you really talk like that? Whatever works, he said.
Leah bed, quiet, religious, slow moving, not slow-witted, though the Oankali had not been particularly impressed by her intelligence. It was her patience and self-sufficiency that had impressed them. They had not been able to make her obey. She had outweighted them in stolid silence. Outweighted Oankali.
You shouldn't begin to lie to yourself. It's a deadly habit. The children will be yours. The child will be yours and Joseph's, Ahajas's and Dichan's. And because I've mixed it, shaped it, seen that it will be beautiful and without deadly conflicts, it will be mine. It will be my first child, Lilith. First to be born, at least. Ahajas is also pregnant.
She did no more teaching unless people came to her and asked questions. This was more punishing to her than to the old colleagues, and she had discovered that she liked teaching. But she found more gratification in teaching one willing student than a dozen resentful ones.
She tried to imagine herself surrounded by beings like him and was almost overwhelmed by panic, as though she had suddenly developed a phobia, something she had never before experienced. But what she felt was like what she had heard others describe, a true xenophobia, and apparently she was not alone in it. And that was the sound circle. Thank you, everyone.
That was amazing. That was amazing.
There's so many ways to get into Octavia E. Butler's work, and we are serious when we say slow and luxurious, because luxuriate we do, slow we are, and that is good. It is good. So we have come to the end of our time together with this particular book. We are moving on to the next book in the Xenogenesis trilogy, and I'll pass it on to Isis to tell us a little bit about adulthood rights.
Yay, so next time we'll be discussing adulthood rights in the sequel to Dawn. Akin, the son of Lilith, struggles to cope with his dual human and alien Oncali legacy while preparing for the time of metamorphosis, when he will take on the form of future human beings. And that will be November 28th.
We are going to be conducting another set of slow read sessions. Right now, the schedule is as follows. There will be 4 sections of adulthood rights, which I have over here. So what I did was just look at the different parts and try to loosely separate them into quads. Session 1 will be on November 12th, session 2 on November 19th, session 3 on November 26th, and session 4 will be on November 27th, barring life circumstances, of course. So I will be sending out over Eventbrite the links to all of the YouTube, well, it's all one YouTube channel, but I'll send out the links to what you can press to be reminded of the words of the live shows for that, of the reading sessions for that. And if you want to make sure that you get any emails that are associated with adulthood rights, then please make sure you get your ticket through Eventbrite, because the links to the YouTube live sessions that will happen before the live show on November 28th will be sent out also over email, and you'll have them all in one spot. You can also subscribe to Onyx Pages, and that way you'll get notifications as well for that and for this live show and any other ones on the channel.
And you can also purchase all of your Octavia E. Butler merch from SistahSciFi.com, which is run by our co-host Isis. Isis has the Mind of My Mind shirt that you see here, as well as the shirt for Parable of the Sower, as well as the newly released individual editions of the Xenogenesis trilogy and the patternist series that we finished reading on the last slow read. So if you're wanting to, like me, repurchase the standalone editions, then you can certainly do that from SistahSciFi.com.
Great. And so as we do after all our slow read events, we want your feedback. Let us know what you liked and let us know where we can improve. So complete the survey. It will be in your inbox shortly.
And then to keep in touch, you can register for the Slow Read via Eventbrite. If you don't have or don't know where to get the link for the Eventbrite for the Slow Read, you can head over to the OEB Slow Read Instagram page. The link to the Eventbrite is in our bio. That's the quickest way to get to it, as well as the Twitter account. And then you can also subscribe to Njeri on Onyx Pages on YouTube and myself at Musical Tati on YouTube to stay in touch with all of us and have conversations about things.
We are going to be hosting a little, like a very brief kind of after the party. There's an after party. So if anybody wants to stay for a bit, maybe 15-20 minutes or so, we're going to be doing it on this link. We're going to disconnect from YouTube. We're going to stop our recording. We're going to end formally. And if anybody wants to just like stay and hang out and chat for a little bit, then we'll stay for a bit afterwards to do so. So you're absolutely welcome to do that. I also want to just announce that you may recall that Ayanna Jameson, who is the founder of the Octavia E. Butler Legacy Society, she is actually facilitating a set of journaling workshops that are going to be inspired by and working through Dawn as sort of the literary template for self-reflection. And those workshops begin today. But they're going to also be available, even if you sign up, they'll be available afterwards as recordings that you can rewatch. I believe there are 3 sessions in all. And I'm just looking at it right now. It's called, yes, Writing Ourselves Through the Apocalypse with Octavia E. Butler. It's 3 Sundays, so September 26th. Let me just share the screen so you can see it. I told her that I would share this with those who might be interested. I hope that you can see September 26th, October 24th, and November 14th from 10 to 12 PDT or 1 to 3 EDT. The sessions will be hosted online, recordings provided later. So if you're interested in spending a little bit more time with Dawn and with Octavia E. Butler, facilitated by Dr. Ayanna Jameson, this is your opportunity to do so. So I'll leave a link to that page in the chat. There are also scholarships available for those for whom this might be cost prohibitive. It's $125 US to participate. So I'll stick that in the chat and you can find out more about it there. Are there any other announcements, Isis or Tati?
I would like to share that for those of you who follow me on YouTube or Instagram, I also participate in #ReadSoLit with Didi from Brown Girl Reading. And next month, October, is Black History Month in the UK, and we will be reading A Cupboard Full of Coats. Latrice, do you remember the author's name? As I struggle to open my Kindle. Thank you. Latrice has her copy of the book. I have it on my Kindle. But we will be reading A Cupboard Full of Coats for the October read. If you would like to participate in that with us, you are more than welcome to do so. It is a different kind of format. We do have a live discussion at the end of the month, but it is just, I was getting ready to say Njeri, Lord, Didi, Michael from Michael Reads, and myself, and then the chat. And we have a live discussion in the chat. So if you would like to participate in that, you're more than welcome to do so. Yvette Edwards. Thank you, Latrice.
And then I have one more. So last year I facilitated a vision boarding workshop inspired by Octavia E. Butler's writing. This year I'll be doing the same. It will be starting earlier. So the prompts and the prep will start a couple of months before based on feedback from last year. And we will be using Dawn as the framework for putting the vision board together. So there'll be more information about that in the future, but just want to let you know that we will be starting in mid-October to prep for the vision boarding. Is there any, there's a lot of SistahSciFi events happening, Isis. Is there anything you want to share?
Yeah, so there are a lot of events, mostly because October is Black Speculative Fiction Month and online events are cool. The one that I will highlight is that we are doing a story time featuring Nishi Shaw, 2043, A Mermaid I Shall Turn to Be. It should be fun. We'll actually listen to it together. It's inspired by 300. 1983, A Merman I Should Turn to Be. And I'll be launching today. There should be opportunities for giveaways and fun stuff. So that will be virtual. So if you can make it, we'd love to have you.
Okay, I think we're good. So basically stick with us because we've got your schedule covered basically for the rest of your life. So definitely make sure I put a link to SistahSciFi's Eventbrite for the event that she just mentioned. And we will share events with you as we continue. So I think we're at a really good place to end formally. So on behalf of myself and Tati and Isis and Sade, thank you very, very, very much for joining us I hope you felt that new series energy today. It's going to be really exciting as we spend the next next 4 months with this new world that Octavia E. Butler has given to us. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. And for those who want to stay for the after party, we'll start that in a couple of minutes. And for those who are leaving us for the day, safe journey, and we'll see you in November. Bye.
Bye. All right.
Bye to everybody watching on YouTube. We're going to be disconnecting the live feed. Thanks for joining us.